Welcome to 21st Century Music Theory. Today's question, how do we map, read, and recognize musical vibration, which we call pitches?
Well, pitches are defined as recognizable single frequencies or vibrations that can be measured in hertz. For example, pitch A, we call A below middle C, right, is actually 440 vibrations per second. And middle C on the piano is 523.25 hertz.
So mapping pitches, those pitches that we heard in Western music, both so that we can read it and then ultimately so that we can go ahead and create our ideas and get them down, has evolved over centuries to the system we now use. Staves are 5 lines with 4 spaces to indicate the system of pitches we inherited using a simple system of 7 letters.
A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, which repeats over and over in what we call octaves.
How can we quickly learn to identify pitches in notation and then learn to locate them on the piano? Or come up with a musical idea and notate that idea on musical staves so others can read it?
So what's the motivation? What do you guys think?
The motivation is that reading and writing music, pitches included, speeds up our abilities to communicate to others, helps us retain what we create or hear for later, and provides a system that can enhance our concentration on the fun stuff, like jamming. In short, it speeds up the mechanics, memory, and rehearsal time.
Yeah, but do you know the history of pitch notation?
Well, briefly, pitch notation dates back to early Mesopotamia between 2000 and 1250 BCE, indicating the string of the lyre, the earliest ancestor of the guitar. Later, about the 6th century BCE, the Greeks created a system, placed symbols above the text, and the practice evolved through Byzantine and Middle Eastern manuscripts to eventually include indications of pitch and pitch duration or rhythm. Modern Western notation probably dates back to the 7th century, but many consider the founder of what is now considered standard music stave to be Guido d'Orazio, an Italian Benedictine monk who lived from about 991 until after 1033 by creating clear indicators of pitch location, and by the 17th century, equally clear indicators of duration or how short or long each pitch should be played.
All right, thanks folks. Yes, the Western system of notation, now used in classical music, popular music, shows or recording sessions, creates a permanent system for retaining or writing musical ideas and then bringing them back to life. As with all things in music, we learn the music reading and writing discipline in very clearly defined steps. So here's an overview. So we have 5-line staves. Each one of these is considered a staff. Collectively, they're staves. And the treble and the bass clef are what we use to go ahead and map the pitches of the keyboard, which you see up here. We basically have only 7 letters. Unfortunately for us, only 7 letters. So the nice thing about this is a small vocabulary. We just have to learn the 7-letter pitch system. In the middle, we have what we call middle C. And so we kind of begin our alphabet, at least on the piano, with middle C, which we're going to call this for right now. Actually, let's go ahead and move it up here. Middle C, which we'll call that. So that's middle C. Then from there, we just move up the alphabet. So we have D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and then it just keeps repeating. You'll notice once we get to the C, here's the octave, what we call an octave, exactly 8 notes away, and then it continues. Now, many times people will learn the letters by doing the lines E, G, B, D, F, and they'll make up acronyms. Every good boy deserves fudge, or whatever. You can make up any acronym. For professional musicians or people learning to read who already play music, this is really not a good system because you just want to get to the point where you recognize the pitches. So we have a 7-letter pitch system. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then we continue to recycle in what we call octaves. Same pitches, but twice or half the frequency. Different pitches, different location, but sounds similar and looks the same on the piano. Works. And for both treble and bass clef, it's the same. It's just we have to learn that the grid is different. So as an example, on bass clef, G, B, D, F, and A, we have to memorize these. We have to memorize the spaces. And then we just drill these. And the thing about long-term memory is you want to drill this regular intervals over a period of a few weeks. So if I do this 4 or 5 times a week for 15 or 20 minutes, at the end of about 3 weeks, I'll have this down. So the whole idea is basically just continue to drill this. So when you see a pitch, you can recognize it. Okay, so now we're going to set a metronome, and we're going to drill the pitches and then practice the location, because the whole thing about a musician is it's not just a matter of me knowing, as an example, if I see a note, to know that that's an A. I need to know it very quickly, because eventually I'm going to attach rhythm and I'm going to do it in real time. Okay, so now we have the metronome going, and we're going to go ahead and practice looking at pages. So what I can do is I can write off a page of pitches. In this case, I begin to actually use rhythm and note values. Don't worry about that, we'll cover it later, but as soon as you're ready for that, go ahead and start. And now with the metronome, I'm going to go ahead and try to say, okay, can I say the names of the pitches? If it's too fast, then I slow it down, but eventually I want to be able to recognize these pitches in real time. All right, let's try it. 3, 4, F, A, C, D, F, G, E, A, E, C, E, F, B. All right, now if I want to eventually include rhythm, which we'll get to later, I can actually hold these for the value of the rhythm and practice it that way. Now we haven't covered this yet, but if you know these notes, you know that the half note is worth twice as much as the quarter note, or it's worth 2 beats. Quarter note is worth 1 beat in common time, which we're going to be covering shortly. All right, so I might try it this way. F, A, C, D, F, G, E, A, E, C, E, F, B. Okay, now we do the same thing with bass clef. First of all, we want to recognize that the lines and the spaces on the bass clef are G, B, D, F, A, and the spaces A, C, E, G. We want to practice that a bit. Then we want to identify slowly out of time. Okay, so G, B, D, F, A, G, A, C, F, as slowly as you need to. You do this repetitively. You can use flashcards or whatever. And then once again, we'll come over here, we'll set our metronome. And then we practice doing this in real time, because again, the whole idea for a musician is I want to be able to recognize this in real time. It doesn't do me any good to know, so, well, let me just figure this out, and I use some acronym or something and then I say that's a B. No, I have to do it in time, because I want to be able to get to playing this as quickly as possible. B, D, F, A, G, A, C, F, A, G, G, etc. And then, so in the treble clef and in the bass clef, we can also extend the pitches beyond the lines and the spaces that we have here. And just to show you, if this were middle C on the piano, then technically our lines and spaces only go up this far. But then we have lots of piano that goes beyond that, and so what we have to do is use ledger lines in order to extend the pitches beyond the system of staves, or beyond the system of lines and spaces we have here. So we use ledger lines to extend both above and also below. I can play in my right hand, or on the piano, I can play it down into the bass clef, just as I can extend the treble clef beyond the line that we have for F. Okay, so memorizing ledger lines is done the same way, and then we mix them together. And if you're going to work with pitches, eventually, again, you want to be able to set a metronome and do a page of pitches, both on the staff and ledger lines, with a metronome set to about 72 beats per minute, and then eventually see if you can move it up to 120 beats. When you have pitch recognition, now we move to the point of location on the keyboard. Our musical vocabulary is frankly very simple to learn. To read and write fluently, like in all languages, however, we have to do regular drilling and repetition to increase both the speed and the fluency of our knowledge so that it's immediately accessible. So to read music, from this point on, we'd recommend the following steps. Memorize and increase the speed of pitch recognition in both clefs, eventually to the point that it's automatic for you. Practice locating the pitches, first on the keyboard, then on any instrument you wish to learn. We do recommend that everyone learn the keyboard because it facilitates work in terms of composition and being able to play both in treble and bass clefs. Then we learn the duration of symbols, which we call rhythm, which we'll cover in the next video, defined in just a few notes and rest values that must be learned and practiced just as we do pitches, so that it is quick and you can do it easily. And then finally, practice pitch and rhythm collectively, usually much more slowly than the music will be played later on. In other words, we want to slow
Just
things down.
remember that it all starts with pitch recognition.
And it's nothing more than C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and over until it's automatic. C, D, E, F, G, A, B.